Is there anybody out there?
The lights in the night sky. Skywatchers. We're watching. We're watching.
Did you see that?
Skywatcher
on Skywatcher Radio. SkywatcherRadio.com.
Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Deborah Jane East, and this is a few days before Christmas, and tonight's show is very inspiring to me. For the past few years, I've taken lots of pictures, as we all have, and one of the things that I noticed in some of my photography was these strange little opaque circles of lights. And they didn't show up in all of my pictures, but quite a few. And recently, over the past week or two, they started showing up in my photographs again. So, I was on the internet and I was researching, and I found out some of the most fascinating information that I've ever come across, and it totally took me by surprise because it wasn't what I thought. And tonight's show is entitled Orbs, Their Mission and Messages of Hope. And it's a book by two wonderful people, and I want to tell you a little bit about them before we get into the show, but I think you will really enjoy tonight's program. This book is about a topic that most people would find unbelievable, and it's about light-filled orbs that will appear out of nowhere, but they have messages. So let me talk a little bit about the authors. Klaus Heinemann was born and educated in Germany and holds a Ph.D. in experimental physics from the University of Tübingen. Dr. Heinemann worked for many years in materials science research at NASA, UCLA, and as a research professor at Stanford University. He is the co-author, along with Michal Ledwith, of the Orb Project. Gundi Heinemann is his lovely wife, and she has received her degrees as an educator in Germany and teaches numerous alternative medicine disciplines. She maintains a healing arts practice in California. Klaus, Gundi, how are you doing this evening?
Thank you very well.
Very well. Thank you.
We appreciate being on your show.
Well, I will not lie. I have been very excited about it because after reading your book and learning about your research, it's just really lifted my spirits. And so I know a lot of people will benefit from hearing about orbs. Now, Klaus, you've been a physics professor at Stanford University, and obviously that is a place where, the intelligence of its professors is really respected. And you're very courageous to speak about an anomaly that provides evidence of an unseen world. How did you get involved in a project such as Orbs?
Let me first answer this, which is probably even more surprising to some of the listeners. I worked at the material science department at Stanford University, together with a professor whom I very highly esteem up to this day, Professor William Tiller. He was in the very same department where I worked, and he already at that time was courageous enough to use a lot of his spare time to do just that, research into the unseen reality. So that only that as a part of the response to your question. Now, you please feel free to come in.
Well, everybody has taken pictures, and the orbs, will show up, in the photographs. And a lot of people say that it's been different things. I'd just like to mention a few things that I was told that you totally exonerated for me. And that's, a lot of people think that orbs are something evil. They think that they are spirits, evil spirits, or ghosts. I heard that quite a bit, that they were ghosts. And, they come in all colors, shapes, and sizes. I never knew that until I saw your pictures in your book. But a lot of people really thought that orbs were something negative. Is that what you thought at first too, or did you have any opinion on orbs?
I definitely have an opinion, and no, I did not see that at my first experience with them. It was just the opposite. I think both of us have come to the recognition that orbs are the most benevolent species in the other reality that we can think of, and that they have only one thing in mind, and that is very positive for us here. Now, to say that, let me first get right into what I believe orbs are. And to this point, I still firmly believe that they are emanations from highly evolved spirit beings. And they have found a method of making themselves known to us here on Earth in such a way that they are using one of the most prevalent and also high-tech instruments that we humans have invented, which is the digital camera, which is possible of imaging something that takes extremely little energy. In fact, it takes the energy that of the order of what is possible for them in the other reality to imprint on and to make visible to us. Now, when I say them in the other reality, what I mean is it has to do with orbs. Orbs are not just little phenomena. Orbs, in my opinion, are emanations from live, intelligent spirit beings.
That's incredible.
That is incredible, and they found this camera and to make themselves known. Now, the energy that it takes to imprint an orb on a CCD plate in a camera, in a digital camera, is approximately 10 to minus 16 amp seconds. Now, to most of you, that means nothing. To those of you who maybe have a physics background or an engineering background, they understand that is extremely little. 10 to minus 16 amp seconds is approximately the energy that it takes to keep your desktop computer alive or running for 1/billionth of a second.
Wow.
That's not very much, is it?
No.
And it is the amount of energy, it's the general range of energy that is used to program human cells for right functioning. It's the amount of roughly the energy equivalent that our mind emits, and it's the range of subtle energy that we're all exposed to, but that not necessarily we all know about and feel about.
That's incredible to even grasp that kind of information. I mean, it really, to be honest, it excited me, because just knowing that something like this exists is, really it's hard to wrap your mind around it. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
First of all, let's talk a little bit about, I mentioned a few things, that orbs can be different colors and shapes and everything. Did you find that interesting? Because I noticed that some of the pictures of the orbs that you had, they were not just round. They were in all different kinds of shapes. Was that surprising to you?
Let me speak to that. Yeah, actually, we found it amazing and wonderful response again, how this field of unlimited possibility responds to us and takes in us as individuals. And some people are drawn to circles and some to diamonds and different shapes. and different colors, and it seems like the field just responds to us and gives us messages that we can best receive and are in tune with.
Gundi, how do you feel that we can, is there a way that we can interpret the messages of orbs that we see? Is there a way to interpret what they're trying to say?
Well, the way we have done it mostly is really look at the picture in the context and see where does the orb show up and what is the situation. Just to give one example, we received a picture of a young woman, a young girl, age 13, who had 2 heart transplants. And the father took a picture of her, and there was a big orb on the heart. Now, to us, it was just very easy to interpret the meaning that the invisible realm is supporting this little girl on her journey through life. And there are many situations where we have orbs like that. Once we have a picture of 3 girls, and one was really handicapped and challenged with her health, and they come back from a long hike. And again, all the girls were surrounded by circles of light. Our interpretation was, they are enjoying life to the fullest, but they have their invisible guides and protectors right with them, and the picture just shows it in a beautiful way.
Wow. Well, one of the pictures I really loved so much is the one of the smiley face. Do you know which one I'm speaking about?
Yes,
would one of you like to describe
that?
That
is actually a little experiment. That a woman, a mother of a 5-year-old child, read our book, and we said in the book that you can ask the spirit entities who are the originators of these orbs to appear, and then then they appear. In fact, I believe that you yourself had an experience like that.
I did.
Yeah. So in this particular case, case you can probably share your experience with the audience too. But in this particular case, this lady just had made some and asked her little son, 5 years old, who was watching a program on the moon on television at the time. He said, "Well, let's draw a picture of the moon on the floor, and let's have an orb appear to make a smiley face out of that picture." and so after some time, exactly that happened. And in fact, it wasn't all that easy, because there had to be two orbs that had to show up as eyes. And that was a little too difficult. So the mother said, "Well, maybe you can first mark the places where the eyes are with 2 tennis balls." And then there were 2 orbs showing up on the fringes there on the side, and as if they were asking, "Now, what do you want me to do?" And then the boy had the guts and the intelligence, I guess, to just roll away one of the 2 balls. One of the 2 tennis balls, and lo and behold, an orb set itself in the same size and same place where the tennis ball was.
It was incredible. It was incredible.
It was incredible. But this is only an example to this particular request to show up and make yourself and just to communicate. And to demonstrate that orbs, in fact, can communicate with us. But there are much more profound cases where orbs appear in photos, and the profundity of this occurrence is really what people should know about. That there are communication attempts that are highly conscious and that are highly aware and important for people. We had one example in that category where a lady who was also coming from nowhere to us and who had read our book saw an orb attached to a book in her library. And she photographed that, and she saw, she all of a sudden saw this orb there. And then she looked at this orb and saw 2 faces in them. And the two faces happened to be the author and the cousin of the author of the book that this orb was attached to, the Mill on the Floss, by anyway. So the Mill of the Floss. So it was amazing. She started to read that book, which she had no idea that she had never opened it before, and found out that indeed, in the beginning of the book there was this picture of the two persons, the author and the cousin, and then she researched the whole life of the author, and she found out that the author had succumbed at about age 55 to a kidney disease problem, and that her life was in fact, in all practical circumstances, very, very similar to her own life. And so, anyway, to cut this long story short, she recognized through this orb picture that she had to get rid of a certain kind of painkiller that she'd been using for years, or it would cause the same problem with the kidneys. And this was in fact a message that she had gotten from her doctor, but she had ignored it. So now she knew, I really have to do something about it. So these orbs can only be that intelligent when we understand that they are emanations from these intelligent beings. And as such, then it goes back to these beings. Now, what are they? What are these beings?
That's a good question.
Probably, we go back to mysticism and so on, and we know that there are guardian angels or beings all around us that are, that do want the very best for us, only the very best, and that try to get our attention. And so this is what happened here.
And they use an incredible creativity to get our attention. Isn't it awesome? Just reflected on the story.
Yes, hearing that story, I mean, it was almost like the Orbs did an intervention with this woman. And I'll have to relate that in my own life, the first picture of an orb that I ever saw was, well, I need to tell you a little bit of background. I had surgery and I nearly died. It was about 15 years ago, and I had a near-death experience. I almost died, but I just asked, could I stay here a little bit longer? I had things that I wanted to do, and God was gracious, and here I am. So I was very sort of depressed, a little bit after that and everything, and I found this heart-shaped stone in the grass. I don't know what made me find that stone. Something just said, reach down into the grass. I couldn't see anything. So I found this rock that looked like a sort of a broken heart. It had like a crack in it, and I heard a voice within me say, even though your heart is broken, it's still a heart and you can still love again. I had went through a divorce and had, the bad surgery experience, and it was a message that filled me with hope. And the first picture that I had taken of me holding that little heart-shaped stone, I had the stone out to the side of my body, I kid you not, right on my heart was an orb. Right on my heart. That is the first experience with an orb picture. And then many times after that, in my home, around my home, in my front yard, there would be pictures of orbs from time to time. So I never really knew what they are. Just what I'd read online, which mostly consist of that they're, ghosts or different things like that. I hadn't really formed an opinion. But recently I came to Washington. I'm here working on a project, doing some things, and lo and behold, just a couple of weeks ago, the orbs showed up again. And they look different. These were different, looking orbs. They some of them do have sort of faces in them.
Yeah.
They have designs and patterns, and I thought, wow, this is amazing. And I started enlarging some of the pictures of the orbs, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. So that's what got me to get on the internet. And Dr. Hyman, your name came up. You and Gundi, your book, and I thought, wow, this is a physicist, and yes, you were brave enough to go in there and to write these books, and it just opened up a whole new thing for me. So it's funny how we got connected here.
Right.
Yeah.
It's actually very interesting when you say it is you were brave enough.
Brave enough.
That's almost a sad statement of reality.
It is.
Because that's where we still are. Mm-hmm. We are still entrenched in the belief system of the last, 400 years or so, where we only latch onto things that we can understand, see, feel, touch, and so on, even calculate, and where we just simply either straight out dismiss or even ridicule anything that goes beyond that.
Well, you're exactly right. Let's talk a little bit about how the scientific community has reacted to your project, because you do, I read all your credentials that you have and everything, and I'm sure that you probably encountered some skepticism because, I do a show about things like this, and I receive a lot of remarks from family and people that in my community, and some of it is not always, positive. So what kind of reception have you received from the scientific community?
It's really both. There are many respectful people in the scientific community who are totally in line with what we believe, and there are others who are just simply so entrenched in their criticism and in their that doesn't make much sense to even talk with them.
I totally understand that. I totally understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's.
You have a passion to contribute to mending the rift between science and spirituality. And has that made a difference in your work? Maybe you want to talk, both of you want to talk a little bit about the things, that you're doing, your workshops, your seminars and retreats and everything, because you guys, I tell you, you do a lot of wonderful work. You do a lot of wonderful work. It's very exciting to hear about it.
I'll just say a couple of sentences and then give it over to Gundi in this regarding this question. I really, mending the rift between science and spirituality has been the theme of my life, if I want to phrase it that way. But our overall mission, I believe, is helping people to tap into the field of unlimited resources to manifest well-being. That's the overall goal that we have, to manifest the people's well-being. Now, Gundi, maybe you want to say a few more words.
Yeah, that really sums us up, and we allow the intelligence or the spirit guide us to whatever is the next project. And one of them has become recently to take people who are ready for it on trips to John of God in Brazil. And one of the statements that the founder of this healing center in Brazil made really responds to the question you asked earlier, Deborah, about the skeptics. And the center is called the Healing Center of St. Ignatius of Loyola, who was, what was his background?
Oh, he was a priest.
Yes, and he said, those who believe, no words are necessary, but those who do not believe, no words are possible. So in other words, why do we even focus on the critics? They are just not ready yet. But that doesn't mean that all of us who feel, orbs are meaningful and healing is possible, that we be quiet about it. We just continue with what gives us excitement and joy and allow things to happen and call it as we feel it deserves to be called. And then in time, when the skeptics are ready and they might have an experience, and then all of a sudden they turn around and join. And we have experienced many times that people came to on our trips to Brazil just because one family member maybe dragged them there, no expectation for themselves. And then they were the first ones to being worked on and experience what we call a miracle of healing, or a miracle of transformation, or a miracle in opening up to this field, this invisible field.
I love that. I love that so much. This world needs things like this, for healing. So that statement just really thrilled me. I really appreciate that.
But let's get back to the critics for a moment, because it really is interesting. I have this very strong impression that the voices of the critics are dwindling. Not increasing, but dwindling. And there are, because the evidence that is coming out is absolutely overwhelming. And I'll give you one example. First, this example you can find in our website, and maybe the people want to know the website. It's called healingguidance.net. And within that website, healingguidance.net / there are numerous, and the pic number 4, when people get into that site, picture number 24 is the example I want to talk about. For a long time, critics, and also really serious critics, said that orbs would just be reflections at dust particles. I mean, I'm sure you've heard that.
Oh yes, that's what I heard.
Right. That theory is totally dismantled. It cannot be upheld anymore. Through the following example, and many others like that. When you have a telephoto camera, or use your camera in the telephoto mode, then the orb would become, if it is in fact near the lens, it would become so diffuse that you would very clearly see it as just a fuzzy little circle and nothing else. Now, back on June 15 of this year, the German soccer team won the World Cup, and there was when they got the cup in their hand, there were photographers all over. They were all quite far away from where the people... On the
bleachers,
somewhere, and probably, 20 meters or 50 feet, something like that. And so they used their super telecameras, maybe 400 millimeters in focal length or something like that, and photographed them while they were receiving this cup. And the German newsprint, Der Spiegel, which is a very famous magazine, printed 3 photos that they took when they received this cup, and all 3 of them that they printed had a huge orb about 3 feet away or 2 feet away from their heads. And that orb was, it couldn't possibly have been anything to do with a dust particle. It would have been a dust particle of the size of 4 inches. It was this orb, without a question of a doubt, was within that distance that I just described, a couple of feet or 3 feet. And it was published there, and nobody even mentioned it. I think they probably didn't have any idea what they were publishing. But these photos are there, and you can find one of them on as the photo number 24 on our website.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is fascinating to see all the pictures, and once you realize that the position sometimes of the orbs is trying to communicate something about what's going on, you start noticing things. And I do want to mention that...
Go ahead.
Dr. Hyman, you did extensive testing, about orbs in sterile conditions. You did a lot of different things to prove what they weren't.
Yes.
And I think that's what was so convincing to me, is the amount of research that you did and all the conclusions that you came up with. So that was very convincing to me. But why do you think that the world wants to... Do you think it's just lack of education, or is it their belief system that people want to think of orbs as something negative?
Good question.
I think it's really the conventional thinking that's still dragging on with some people, and they haven't taken the time to, get into the subject matter and really inquire. But when people are ready, they will change, and it can happen quickly. And when we talked about the previous picture, for example, the orbs in the magazine of the Time magazine in Germany, and many people will just wonder and say, oh, what's this red circle there in the picture, and then put it aside and not ponder it any further. It reminds me of the fact when they say, when the first ships came to the United States, the Indians had never seen a ship, and they just couldn't see them. So it's the same with the orbs. Some people have never entertained that there is a field of beyond that wants to communicate well-being to us and help us, so they are not ready. But the moment the heart opens, then all of a sudden they look at the picture and say, oh, look at these circles. And they are messengers from beyond to us. And the first orb pictures we know have not been photographed just recently, in recent years, but we had them a long time ago, but most people didn't know what to do with them. They said, oh, they're just red spots on the photo. Let's just put it aside. It's not a good one. So, in other words, there is more for us to discover, and the readiness needs to happen first, and it always starts with a creative minority. And you, Deborah, definitely belong to those, because you get the message out, and many others.
Yeah.
Well, I did find out that since I have learned so much about orbs, that sometimes I am able to see them, not through the camera lens, but out of the corner of my eye. I see these things. I know which corner of the room they're in, or I sense their location, where they're at. One time I was taking a picture, and a couple of seconds before I took the picture, I saw the orb in front of me. So did you find that in your research, that some people are able to see orbs as well as, do photograph them?
Yes, I think you've described extremely well what some people do see. We personally, neither I nor Gundi, have had that experience, but we know quite a few people who had that. And you're just confirming this again. When we were taking our first orbs, kind of photographing seriously, there was a friend who is a clairvoyant person, and he said, okay, I'm going to show you when you can photograph this. And then he said, up there is an orb, and we photographed, and indeed there was an orb in the photo. So he could see them. In the book, Orbs, Their Mission and Messages of Hope, we also describe an incident where a woman was around a couple of orbs for about 2 hours, and they walked with her. She walked, back and forth for a quarter mile from one place to another, and the orbs were always around her. And she describes in detail what happened and what she felt, and how the whole situation was. And it's very clear. Some people see them, and some people don't. Now, these orbs, or these spirit entities who are emanating orbs, they do that in such a way that either the person or the photographer who took the photo will receive them best, will see them best, so that they will actually receive the message or have a chance to receive the message that they are giving.
Wow.
That is clue. That is clue. So this lady that I talked about who had a life-threatening illness that cured by that, she was prone to see faces in an orb. And so she saw these two faces. I personally had a very hard time to even seeing those two figures there. Mm-hmm. It took me a while to distinguish that in all the fuzziness of the orb picture.
But you describe beautifully, they say, if one wants to learn it, just like you did, to look to the corner of the eye, and that's where we discover them first. And I think it's a possibility for each of us, if we're interested in it, to become more perceptive in these matters.
Well, that's really, I guess, what it boils down to. And I wanted to know about the orbs. They fascinated me. And as you probably guessed from the name of my radio show, which is Skywatcher, I deal a lot with extraterrestrial things, UFOs, and things of that nature. Now, some people I've saw lots of pictures, and they term them orbs, but they may not be. In the sky, they will talk about seeing large orbs that seem to be opaque. Are there orbs? Did you find any kind of evidence that orbs sometimes appear in the sky, Klaus? Or do you think these are other anomalies besides orbs?
We've seen orbs in plain daylight, and whether they are the same phenomena as you're talking about is questionable, but they probably all, I believe that they all fall into the same category of phenomena, meaning of communication that is directed at us from another reality. Now, I've thought a lot about the term extraterrestrial and what that could be in relation to orbs. And I've come to the conclusion that it is that the term needs to be defined. Obviously, what many people have seen as ETs or as evidence for ETs is still believed to be something that is of physical nature. Whereas orbs, I do not think that they are of an actual physical nature. It's only physical if you extend our normal physical reality all the way from the physical to the non-physical, to the realm of consciousness, to the realm of to what we normally would call spiritual. So in that sense, extraterrestrial would work because it is outside of the Earth, of the physics that we have on the Earth here.
Exactly.
But, you see that, but the definition may not be how would I say? May not be accurate enough. One would have to probably define even better words. So I think there is more to extraterrestrial phenomena than literal beings coming from a different planet within our universe. I think there is even more than that.
Well, I'll have to agree with you. I have been recently working with Ray Hernandez of the Free Foundation, who has a lot of pictures of orbs that he calls it, he had a visitation. They saw the orbs in their home and in their environment, and then later, I think he even had experienced an extraterrestrial contact, and so I don't know if those two are related, but I definitely think that sometimes these things coincide with each other somehow. I don't really understand it, but, well, I will say this. You talked about consciousness. So what exactly are you saying that the orbs, they do have a consciousness of their own?
I'm saying that according to the experience that we have had so far, that I've had so far, is that orbs are emanations from beings that are highly evolved, yet don't have a body, obviously, but have a lot of consciousness. So they are indications that there is another reality that is way beyond ours, and that is not physical, and that is probably also outside of the universe as we know it. Yet there is there's a dimension that is way beyond the dimensions of our universe.
Yes, and I think that's hard for people sometimes to grasp.
Yes.
Because, people, well, for instance, I hate to pick on my parents, but I will, because I know they probably won't get to hear the show, but, they have lived and been raised in the same community all their life, and this would probably be hard for them to grasp, about the orbs,
Yes.
because it's outside of what they knew when they were growing up and when they're adults. But, for people who are really innovative and they are hungry for knowledge about these kind of subjects, and the more you study it and the more you experience it, it's like there is a whole new door, a window in your life that is open to you. And when I saw that you were saying that the orbs have a message of hope, I just thought that was incredible, and it took away a lot of... I didn't have fear of the orbs, but, if you don't understand what something is, it sort of intimidates you a little bit. And
I guess that's conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
It?
conditioning.
It is the conditioning, and the media and the film industry and all of that, they have latched onto this conditioning, If something has to do with ghosts or with orbs, it is usually mean, and it is against us, and so that it's just conditioning. I do not agree with that conditioning, and I firmly I firmly think that there, in that reality that we probably would best call the spiritual reality, there is no meanness, there is no ill will, there is only the very best intention toward us.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love that. I love that, Dr. Hyman. That is so wonderful to hear you say that, because that's how I believe. I believe that there is goodness and there is no evil. And it's good to spread that message at a time when the world sometimes seems so chaotic with all the things that are going on,
Yes,
overseas and in the United States with, all of the different issues and stuff that our country has. So it's a very positive message. And do you think that sometimes, you mentioned about the woman and her healing, her heart issues, it seems like the orbs have compassion on us as human beings. They have compassion and they want to help. And I would surely think that this would be a message that everyone could embrace, that it's a very positive thing. And I just want to say that not a lot of people of your stature would take on a subject like this because of all of the things that people believe that are out there and that you can be discounted. So wonderful work that you're doing. Would y'all like to talk a little bit about, I know that you do a workshop on quantum touch. I think, Gundi, that is what you do. Could you talk a little bit about that for everyone?
Yes, I teach, actually we both teach a number of subtle energy healing modalities, and where the individual learns simple methods, and then they can assist themselves and others and actually even do distant healing for loved ones far away, or issues that concern you concerning the world, and contribute to well-being. And it's very easy, but it allows the individual to just tap into this field and be an instrument of compassion, of love, and of healing. So we are all excited about teaching quantum touch and then pranic healing and Reiki and different methods. And if you really look at the difference of them, you find the uniqueness and the commonality, which has to do with asking to be an instrument for healing and tapping into this unconditional love that's available for all of us and actually within us, and just remembering and then be of service.
Oh, that is certainly something that I want to do, and I know my producer, Rachel Love, is listening to this show, and when you talked about sending energy, distant healing, and things like that, she has embraced that for a long time. And, I have received that myself, and it's just something that you feel. It's a real thing. I've seen her do this with other people, so it's an amazing thing to experience. And,
yes. And the Orb research actually solidifies that. And it all but proves that is possible. That in that area where the orbs are produced, quote unquote, there is no distance and no distance barrier and no time barrier. And so, with our intent, we can go anywhere in the universe and have an effect, including a healing effect. So healing is really nothing other than us humans tapping into this field where all the energy is, all the subtle energy is, and get the healing from there. Mm-hmm. We are so proud often that we forget that the fact why you and I are still alive and doing well is not something that effect is really an effect of grace that we've received. And it's constant healing that was given to us and that caused, that contributed to that. It's not our own doing. It is coming from a reality that where we all came from. That
yes.
Gives us, gives us this energy.
Well, that's very profound. Hearing you say that is very profound. I even wrote that down as you were saying it because, the fact that there is no distance, there is no time barrier, and if you embrace this, and it's almost like you feel this alive in your consciousness that you can do this, and I've experienced it myself, and basically when I found that heart stone and then I experienced the orbs, I felt like it was an open door. Because I found that stone, I wrote a book, I became an author, and now I have a radio show. It's like it's like a domino effect. It really has changed my life, and I think the more I hear you speak about it, I just think about what a positive message for people to embrace in their life if they experience this themselves. So just a wonderful thing,
And the beautiful thing is it's available for everyone, if the individual is interested, but they, in the field of unlimited possibilities, honor our free will and our choice. So we can say yes and pursue it, or we can just leave it to others. It's our choice, but it is available.
Well, I do think that the world is embracing things like this more because I research a lot of things, and in studying quantum science and all the things related to that, it's like the universe is open. We do have, we really limit ourselves to things that we can do.
Absolutely.
And,
Absolutely.
Yes. And so it's a fascinating thing. I would love for you to tell everyone your websites and how they can purchase your books, because you have written other books. I think you have 6 other books, and you also have written a lot of scientific papers as well.
Yeah. So the most significant website where people could really find everything else would be healingguidance.net. Healingguidance.net. And if they go there, and then they find a subtitle books where they can get a hold of all the books. One book is Orbs, Their Mission and Messages of Hope. Another more recent books is actually one that goes way beyond just orbs. It's called Expanding Perception, and the subtitle is Rediscovering the Grand Original Design. And of course, if you grand original design, if you capitalize these 3 words, you know what you get to, which is God. It is a book that we would very highly recommend. But again, you can find all the information at healingguidance.net/books.
Well, that's wonderful. I hope that everybody will, out there listening, if you've taken pictures and you saw orbs in them and you have a fascination with them and you want a wonderful message, then I do encourage you to read these books. And I've read Orbs, Mission of Hope, but the other Orb book is on my Christmas list, so I plan on reading that. I just want to say, both Dr. Hyman, you and your wife, Gundi, I tell you emanate such warmth and such a positive message. I just can't thank you enough for being on my show. Can I ask you both, are there more books in the future? Are you planning on writing more books, or what's ahead for you?
Definitely yes. Yeah, but there is one other book that is it's actually a long article that has the most recent research on orbs in it, and that is also, you can also find that book. It was published in the magazine Light last year, or early this year actually. So some of your listeners might want that. And again, you can find the reference to that article in Light, as in the magazine Light. It's called, let me just bring it up here, The Orb Phenomenon, Bridging to the World Beyond. So I would recommend reading that, and you can read the whole article without even buying anything directly on the internet when you go to our website. And then we wrote a book that is called Being the Change, and I'm sure that some of your listeners would be very interested in reading that. It deals with how important it is that we change, that we adapt to new situations. So it includes the key teachings that we all need to undergo if we want to evolve to where we are intended to evolve to.
Well, that is wonderful, Dr. Hyman, and I do encourage everybody to go to the website and also to check out these books for just a really joyful read. And I just want to say it's been a pleasure to have both of you on my show, and I hope you continue writing books and doing your workshops, because, for people out there that need this kind of stuff in their life, I think it's going to open a whole new world to them, a whole new experience, and I thoroughly recommend that everybody check out your books. I hope you have a wonderful Christmas holiday and that all your travels are safe, and I want to thank you both for being on my show.
And we thank you for having us.
Thank you very much, and joyful holidays to you and your listeners.
Thank you, everyone. This has been Deborah Janies for Skywatcher Radio. I hope that all of you out there have a wonderful Christmas and wonderful holiday. And join us again next week as we talk about subjects, everything from extraterrestrials, from UFOs, orbs, all kinds of different phenomenon. I appreciate it. And this is Deborah Janies signing off. Thank you.